What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part, I want to say, 34 of my Total Warhammer 3 Vlad and Isabella Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, we had that funny little battle with the AI around Fort Straghoff, with the AI as our allies, showing us just how stupid the AI is when it's controlling units. It was pretty interesting and, in my opinion, a educational experience, or at least that was for me. Also, I just noticed that there's a giant bear statue here, or a bear carving out of the stone as Norska turns to Kislev. That's actually pretty nice. I can't believe I didn't notice that before. What am I doing? Anyway, we left off last time with the fact that Festus the Leech Lord has attacked, or at least sieged, Erengrad. Vlad is ready to attack him, so in that light we've actually deleted all the army that Aldous Puffback had, in the hopes that maybe, if we hit Festus, he won't try to run from Vlad. Fortunately, the fact that Vlad's army is, let's say, underestimated by the auto-resolve, it definitely works in our favor. Now, before we get to that, though, there's a couple of things. First of all, I want to address a couple of comments. One, yes, the endgame scenario are turned on for this particular campaign. When they happen, however, I have absolutely no clue. We'll just have to get to it. As for what the goal of this campaign is, at the end of the day, well, it's partly up to interest and it's partly up to you guys, in the sense that as long as there is interest, I will continue the campaign. Whether it be to some specific goal, which you guys can suggest, like taking specific objectives like the Black Pyramid of Nagash, Nagashazar, and I don't know, the Awakening, or the Maelstrom. Well, now we're probably going to ally with the Dread Fleet. But yeah, specific objectives like that, or we just keep going until we don't. It looks like we'll be achieving the victories of various types with relative ease. I think even the long campaign victory doesn't look too problematic, especially with the particular territories that need to be taken. I think the Wasteland is the furthest one away from where we are, unless you count the parts of Nordland, but that's easier to get to because, well, we're right here now. So yeah, neither the short nor the long campaign victory should be too problematic. So yeah, you guys let me know about all of that. In the Boris campaign, I ended up going for the world conquest because of the the interest was there, so definitely a possibility here. Otherwise, I took like 10 to 15 minutes between the episodes to do a bunch of diplomacy. I was finally able to get Imric to do several things, including giving us military access. He was also willing to join several wars against several other factions that we are fighting, and all it cost us was some money, as you can see, plus the war against the Darklands Orcs. I wasn't originally going to do this, but if we have to summon a lord to keep Imric friendly to defend the World's Edge Archway, well, I feel like that's a price worth paying, because there's some nice stuff in the High Elf roster that we may want to pick up, like various types of phoenixes. Anyway, other than that, there's one other thing that I noticed while doing diplomacy, and that is pretty significant. We've been wanting this for a while, and that is the military alliance with the northern provinces. It seemed that as soon as the northern provinces confederated the Celestial Loyalists, who now don't exist and incidentally are no longer trading with us, it seems that they became much more likely to become a military ally with us. Why this is the fact, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what influenced it. Perhaps the AI thinks that since these guys are no longer fighting the northern province or the Celestial Loyalists, it thinks that they will be fighting it next, and therefore it thinks that itself is in a much weaker position. I would imagine that that's the case, but, well, if anybody else has any idea about why the diplomacy worked out that way, I'm all ears. We will, however, obviously do this. Now, the question is whether we want to ask them to join a war against somebody, like Nakai, for example. Nakai is down here, right? And he is causing problems for the western provinces, so it may be beneficial to have Miao Ying help them out as well. It'll also keep these two friendly with each other, and not just us. How much money are you willing to give us for this? 1,500? And that was about half the amount, so we can get twice as much by not doing this? Yeah, you know what, that's fine. Let's have her join the war against Nakai, as well as give us a little bit of cash. I suppose we can have her join a little bit more war, but honestly, she's probably going to get in a fight with Eshin and with the Blessed Dread anyway without our intervention. Let's do that. Alrighty, lovely, and we'll be able to upgrade her outpost as well, and hopefully that'll help Miao Ying defend. Alrighty, that's it for the diplomacy. At least for now. Now we have several things to consider. Well, actually, you know what? I've talked enough, at least for a little while, so let's have a cinematic battle against Festus the Leech Lord if he decides to not run away. I guess it remains to be seen, but if he does run, we'll simply have Aldous chase him down instead. Alright, moment of truth. Will he stay or will he go? And he stays. Pyrrhic victory, and that's with the garrison. We don't need the garrison for this. Granted, they do have some elite units that should be fairly effective against some of our units, but, well, I'm hardly afraid of this particular army with Vlad's Death Star. Here we go, cinematic. Let's see if we can't get some nice duels going out of this, though it'll be hard if the enemy is going to Death Star as well, which I'm willing to bet is probably the best thing to do for them, since it's a lot of single target entities and it's a lot of healing coming in from Festus. Ironically, this is sort of a similar matchup to us, isn't it? They've got a decent air force, and they've got a lot of single entities. Huh. Alright, well, Death Star Showdown, here we go. Well, I hope Van Hell enjoys some good old-fashioned Death Star wars, though they are going to begin with an aerial duel, Vargheists and vampires versus various types of plague drones. I think these are just the regular plague drones, not the Death's Head variety, so they have no range, and thus lack the lack that armor-piercing ranged ability, which would have allowed them to do a little bit of damage while the Vargheists close the distance. That said, obviously we have the Featherfoe Torque as well as various reductions here, so these guys are quite affected by it, and our Vargheist would probably be superior anyway in a one-on-one, as these are Isabella's buffed up Vargheist. Isabella's over on this side actually fighting another unit of Plague Drones, and she's going to be using her Storm of the Night on that. So lucky for us that this can happen while we wait for Vlad and the rest of the Death Star to close. Looks like we are going to be taking a little bit of extra damage from enemy Exalted Plague Bearers here, or these are the Regiment of Renown as well, I believe. Though the Plague Drones do be dropping. I do imagine we'll probably be losing a couple of Vargheists to that, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Alrighty, oh wow, that thing just moved. Oh, it moves with the models that are left alive, that's interesting. Anyway, it looks like one plague drone left here, and all the plague drones have died on this side. This is not surprising once again because we have the Featherfoe Torque and the Pigeon Plucker Pendant and the Scarecrow Banner all on that side. Though Isabella wasn't too far behind with taking care of the other unit. Oh, plus the Devils of Schwarzhofen and the Terrorgeist were over on this side as well. Alrighty, and it looks like Vlad is nearly here. He's actually separate from the Death Star this time, as his goal will be to fight Festus. We shall see if Festus is the best. I really wanted to say that. Alrighty, and ooh, looks like a lot of range damage coming in onto our Necromancer, but of course we can heal that up, and there's a lot of healing coming in this particular area. Shouldn't be too much trouble. Festus probably gonna run from Vlad. Of course, Festus's stats aren't super great on paper in terms of fighting capability, but he is a support unit, and he does have the Bilious Thunderguff here to help him out as well. Fortunately, we also have zombies to rise around us to help Vlad, although not that Vlad needs the help so much as Vlad wants them to distract the other units while he tries a fight with Festus. And there we go, and I'm not reinforcing anything, as in Vlad is going to be here by himself. Oh wow, look at those flying zombies, one of them being headless as well. I like the towering giant overhead. Oh, and here comes a beast of Nurgle to join the fray as well. Looks like Vlad's actually taking a little bit of damage, but he has a bunch of ways to heal up, so that is not really relevant. Over on this side, we have summoned some zombies and have joined the fray with the enemy and are about to get our flyers to join in as well, together with the Blood Knights, and even our fast movers are moving in to help. None of them supporting Vlad. He's alone against the Beast, the Giant, the Festus, and whatever else he's got in this blob of enemies here. Of course, he can continue to raise the dead. And he's got Chaos Warriors of Nurgle with great weapons, the Festering Stooges, Exalted Plague Bearers, as well as, I don't know, oh, and the Aspiring Champions. Damn, I guess they really want Vlad, but it looks like he's still more or less pretty much fine. And Festus has started to take damage. Damn, with the debuff of the Helm of Discord, he's only got 15 melee attack. Not all that threatening, though the healing he provides to his army is probably pretty great. Otherwise, we do have our own reinforcing army coming in, but we're not going to be using them with the possible exception of Aldous, just to allow him to get a few hits in. I like those dual swords, incidentally. Would be nice if he could get some, dual axe depth guard or something. Something to match his whole dual sword thing. But anyway, we don't really need those guys, as clearly the enemy's already having a pretty bad day. Vlad is actually looking to be nearly healed up, and he doesn't care about fighting all those units, does he? The rest of the enemy army is also looking to be in very, very bad shape. The Blood Knights have now surrounded the Swords of Chaos and are overrunning them. And now, at this point, I got annoyed that Vlad couldn't reach Festus with all these enemies blocking him, so I decided to use the Pit of Shades on top of the blob of enemies, and just to make a little bit of a clear path. The Pit of Shades, of course, wouldn't hurt the single entity units, including Festus and Vlad, but it might have cleared a few of those smaller units, as it is armor piercing. And there we go. Looks like Festus has decided to run away from Vlad altogether, who is, by the way, now at full HP and still animated. I do believe he has the perfect vigor buff at this, or does he not? I thought he got the trait, and he is still animated, whereas other units are... No, you're still animated as well. Okay, I guess everybody's still animated. We'll see. We'll see if the vigor loss starts hitting, but we're at 3 minutes in, so it's a little bit surprising that everybody's still looking good. And when I say everybody's looking good, I do only mean our side, because the enemies ain't looking so good themselves. I feel like Festus probably should have stayed near these units to provide them additional healing, because now he's in the part that's overrun, and the Vamps and the other units should be bringing him down. I'd like to see his death animation if possible as well. Oh, and look, he has 2 Vargulfs on him, plus the vampires come in. If Vlad can't have it, then Isabella will kill him herself. Unless the Vargulfs do it for her. Well, looks like he's in banishment, isn't he? I guess he has the demonic trait, or the final part of his tree, which makes him demonic, unless he starts as demonic, I'm not sure. I imagine he's like Valkyrian Village, where he gains demonic afterwards. And down he goes. Oh, that's disgusting. Huh. I feel like any enemy units nearby should either be heavily damaged or healed when he drops down like that. Alrighty, and let's see what remains. Looks like the Bilious Thunderguff is done. At the very least, he is broken and the other units are in banishment, so the battle, just like that, fairly quickly over. Actually about a standard battle time in about a little over 3 minutes. And we didn't even get time to use any Winds of Death or anything like that. The enemy was just overrun, and we took no damage. Indeed, I think the only damage we really took was the Vargeists as they fought those Plague Drones, and they actually never lost any models, only taking HP damage. So at the end of the day, I think this was pretty damn decisive. Alright, run away, Thunderguff, but you're gonna get slaughtered as you do. In fact, we can just speed this up a little bit, and hey, was that a ranged attack from some, what was that? Huh, I thought I saw something. Oh, there's a Kossar Spear unit here, okay. Yeah, we'll chase the rest of those units down. We don't even really need to heal. I think one of our, yeah, there's a loss of unit here, and I tried to heal these guys. I think I did anyway. Yeah, I definitely did, because it was bothering me that there was one damaged unit. And I don't know where it died. I wish we could still see where the corpse was, just out of curiosity. But anyway, there we go, as I said, very much a decisive victory. And this is really, really bad for Festus. I think that because of the elite nature of his army, that's what essentially was keeping him alive, or keeping him as a thorn in the back of Reichland and the various other imperial territories. His army was stronger than anything they could build, so he would personally go around and kill their army. armies. But with his army having fallen, I think most likely the AI will build a much weaker army to replace it, full of marauders and other garbage, kind of like Azazel and kind of like Festus's other armies. So I would expect that his territories are going to start dropping really quickly, and that will mean that we will soon be needing to fight Reichland and the other territories as we start sharing borders with them. Alrighty, well, we got one loss, and it was one of the Blood Knights somehow, and for some reason it couldn't be revived, as in I tried an invocation of Nehek on that unit repeatedly, and it just wouldn't live. But anyway, at the end of the day, we saw that our Death Star is vastly superior to that of Festus. And I really like how Vlad was fighting half of the enemy army by himself and not really taking any damage, whereas the rest of our army was destroying the other half. Pretty damn good. We got a bonus Banner of Eternal Flame, which may have value in this army, especially as it is a Death Star, and thus we would get the base weapon damage on everybody around. Could pop that on, for example, our Necromancer or our Mortis Engine. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but Vlad, he has the Screaming Banner. Well, we'll figure it out. In the meantime, we are going to take the money, I guess. And Casualty and Vigor Loss Reduction. Oh, that's actually quite nice. Oh man, I feel like we might want this on several lords then. Army receives Plague. Hopefully it's not a damage plague, and no, it does not appear to be a damage plague, though it is that annoying battle healing cap reduction. Still, that's okay. And all this has the same. We got that Banner of Eternal Flame. Now the question for Vlad then is, what do we get rid of? You know, I like the Scarecrow Banner, but you know, I think our anti-air is sufficient. And I think we'd get more out of the Banner of Eternal Flame than we would out of the... Oh, actually, maybe you don't actually need the Gravedigger now that I think about it. You're only going to raise 2 more units of Blood Knights and... to replace these guys. And then potentially another Terrorgeist, although the 1 is actually probably more than enough. Yeah, and presuming that you're not going to raise any more dead... Assuming that you don't lose too many units, so you actually don't really need the Gravedigger. Alrighty, ancillaries, get that... oh, I forgot about the Rampager standard. That could go on the Blood Knights, that could go on like half this army, really. You know, I'll think about that. It might be better than the Scarecrow Banner. The thing about this army is that it doesn't really need anything. It's already too strong. So, not a big deal. Now... Egrim is out here. His army is pretty weak, and I would imagine he's going to go for Kappelberg first. Yeah, with this army, he's not going to be able to take any of our walled settlements. I don't think we need to watch him, unless another army comes by, like Eglixus. But frankly, with the loss of Festus, these guys will probably be having quite a tough time fighting the remnants of the Empire, so probably not a big deal. Vlad, I think it's time for you to move to Castle Alexandrinov. And you know, I was going to delete Aldous, but I think what we could do instead is send Aldous to take Castle Alexandrinov, allowing Vlad to move away after. Now this would be pretty valuable, as it would save up on a lot of wasted time. Erengrad, you can't upgrade, but that's fine. Now we need to figure out what we do here. First of all, Roderick. And your Devourer Rangers. Now you can't really reach anything. What you could do is protect Fort Ostrosk. So here's the problem. We have 2 full stacks here, and then another stack coming in from Egrim, all of which could in theory attack Fort Stroghoff, as well as Bok and the remnants of his army. Which would probably necessitate getting a Lord up and running here in order to defend that. Which would mean, well, quite a bit of money expenditure, but, well, that shouldn't be too surprising, especially since Rod can't march stance his way to it. What Rod can do is ambush his way close to, or as close as he can get to it, such that next turn, maybe he can attack. Let's go here, Probably could have gone there anyway, but too late. Alrighty, and then if they do attack it, or if they siege it, or if they stick around here, we'll send Roderick to deal with them. And then back around to take either Prague or help it. There's still a lot going on here, so we'll have to see exactly what the AI does next turn. Now, there is additional considerations down south. Peter is near to Thorgrim, and he may be able to attack him. It really depends on how far Thorgrim is going to run, if he does run. And there's also the potential of getting another Vargeist in Peter's army, as we do want this army pretty Vargeisted up, and I was going to replace all the bats with Vargeists anyway. You know what, let's replace another bat with the Vargeist. I know it's costly, but, well, 155 money for a Vargeist is just glorious. Alright, there we go. 4 may be sufficient. We'll see what else we need to get into this army, but, yeah. And it's drawing a little bit further away from the Imperial tactics that I had originally envisioned, but with the Mortis Engine, the main line, and the range, it's still relatively there, though I do want to swap out these Glade Guard for some better units, and maybe get a Handgunner unit in here as well, though we don't have them unlocked as yet. We can wait on that one. Alrighty, well, I guess it's time to attack Thorgrim first. Let's see if he's willing to fight this. And no, he's going to run, but how far? How far can you run, Thorgrim? I fear, buddy, not far enough. Alrighty, well, this will be something for Pete to do. It seems a Pyrrhic victory. This is quite an interesting army, in fact. And we're going to get a little bit of help from these garbage... Oh, this is the Bloody Hands? I was like, wait a second. They don't like us either, but they're not at war with us, which is why they're helping. Yeah, they've got a lot of grudge throwers, and, well, artillery in general, plus a ton of Iron Drakes, which would probably obliterate our Graveguard. We're going to have to be careful about how we approach this. Definitely going to have to rely on our aerial units to move in and take, probably tie up the various Iron Drakes, while our Knights deal with the various artillery pieces. And Peter is currently on his health steed, so he can at least join the fray fairly quickly together with the Flyers. Alrighty, well, that's the plan. Let's see if it works out. Here we go, another cinematic battle.
It is done.
Well, it's not done yet, but I do imagine that it will be. Now, this should be a pretty interesting battle. The enemy does have quite a few advantages, a ton of artillery, as well as splash damage in the form of the various Iron Drake units, as well as, well, obviously the artillery and the Gyro Bombers as well. They've got both the regular Gyro Bomber and the Skyhammer Regiment of Renown, which can do quite a bit of damage with their bombs. Plus, their infantry in the form of the Giant Slayers are quite a bit stronger in a one-on-one than Graveguard, and should be able to make mincemeat of them, or minced bone, bone dust, I don't know, something of them. That said, that is in theory. In practice, we are still able to fly in and start summoning zombies on top of the enemy artillery while we close the distance with our army. We're actually going to be moving around this hill to force the AI to reposition and choose between our reinforcing units as to who to attack, plus to take the hill and have our ranged units fire down on the enemy, plus to use all of this essentially for cover from the enemy artillery and range. We also have our Knights who are moving in the background here, ready to hit the enemy in the back, as well as our Fellbats to do the same, and then our Vargeists to tie the enemy up when they're ready. And now, when they're ready is, the key phrase, I suppose, here, and because we're going to start by annoying the enemy by summoning as many zombies as possible. Granted, this is going to be costing us pretty much all of our mana, especially if we use the occasional Flock of Doom on the enemy, but it's pretty worthwhile use as our very slow army closes the distance. We also do have a scroll of reducing... Are you really going to drop your bombs on those zombies? Okay. We also have a scroll of cooldown reduction. I don't remember what the name of the actual scroll is. So that'll allow us to summon 2 units of zombies pretty much simultaneously. And there we go. There's the second one coming up now. And once again tie up those artillery pieces while our army just gets closer and closer. The Graveguard may be slow, but the zombies will buy them time, as is appropriate. Also, the AI now doesn't really seem to know what exactly to do. It's kind of blobbing around in the middle. If we had a Wind of Death, we could have really annoyed them quite a bit. Ooh, and the Fire Drakes or Iron Drakes, I have a bad habit of calling Iron Drakes Fire Drakes constantly, are obliterating those zombies, though I do imagine at least some splash damage is going to be reaching the various dwarfs and slayers and such. You gotta love the flamethrower units, though. They're just so fun to watch. Also, while all this is happening, and we have run out of mana at this point, so no more zombies, at least for a little while, we have Peter chasing around the enemy gyro bomber, and he's already done half damage to it. Usually the gyro bombers just try to run away, but the Hellsteed is 121 move speed, and too fast for these guys. Very nice. So it can keep running, but Peter will get to it eventually. Alright, nearly the last of the enemy or our zombies, I suppose, are done for, but we can see the Vargeists moving in the background, and our army is soon getting ready to crest the kill. In fact, our range units are taking taking the occasional shot at the enemy gyro bomber up here. Speaking of gyro bombers, this one should be just about done. And there we go, down you go into a tailspin and down onto the ground. Too bad it didn't crash and smash into those artillery pieces. Our allies have also arrived, not that we really need the help from them, and we have now taken position on top of the hill. We also managed to get another use of Flock of Doom upgraded. Once again, not a crazy amount of damage, but against things like the Grudge Throwers, as well as the various Slayers, it should do a decent amount of damage, especially as the enemy is blobbed up nicely. We may not have a Wind of Death or anything like that, but the damage should be there. Yeah, see, we've done a respectable amount, 12k, going down up to 13k. It's about 300 damage per tick in a blob like that. And there we go. Now we've reached the enemy. Of course, we do have... Ooh, hello. Skolder Guard are firing their steam at us. And now it's time for our range units and our Vargeists to pick the targets. Of course, the Vargeists are going to be specifically going after the enemy range, the Iron Drakes, damn it, the Iron Drakes, whereas our ranged units are all going to be targeting, focus firing, in fact, the enemy Giant Slayers and regular Slayers. We don't really care about the Longbeards out there because they're not that much of a threat, and they don't do nearly as much damage. Plus, we can leverage the fact that the enemy Slayers have no armor, and thus the crossbowmen, as we can see, and the Glade Guard are ripping them apart quite nicely. There we go. They're certainly going to be hitting a few of our own units here, but they basically killed those Dragonback Slayers in a few seconds, and they've done very little damage to our own heavily armored Graveguard. Same thing goes for the regular Slayers and Giant Slayers out here, who were being targeted by the other two units. Over on the side, our Knights a little bit slow to the action, of course, and getting some bombs dropped on them at that, but are finally able to enter the fray and try to distract the enemy artillery. I guess we allowed the artillery to fire a little bit too long, but I felt it was more important to take out the various enemy units of Iron Drakes first, and then deal with the artillery afterward. There we go. Kill all those Iron Drakes, Vargeists. I really didn't want those guys to get full volleys of flames into our piles of Graveguard, which were sort of, blobbing up in a way that wasn't necessarily good for us. Thorek, of course, still fighting in the middle of this, trying in vain to protect his artillery pieces, and he will be very difficult to bring down, but he is not an unbreakable unit, and thus we only need to kill the rest of his army. And even our little single unit of Bats is helping out. Good job, Bats. Alrighty, Vargeists now giving chase in a huge pile to that poor gyrocopter. Unfortunately, they don't have the buff that Isabella's do, but they should still be more than plenty. And just like that, the enemy army decides to rout. Beautiful. Alrighty, looks like our damage was pretty minimal. Most of the damage, in fact, appears to be on the Mortis engine, which was hit by the enemy Giant Slayers and a little bit surrounded. The Mortis engines do have a bad habit of moving forward into the enemy blobs, which is great if they're, you know, trying to apply that Mortis Engine damage area of effect, but against Giant Slayers could go very bad very quickly. However, a heal or two on it and we'll be mostly fine, I think. It is nearly reached, in fact it has reached its healing cap. But it's still looking pretty okay. Should be able to get it to 90% or so. And at the end of the day, the other losses were insignificant and were mostly related to zombies, so I think that went damn well. And Thorgrim is still running, actually just out of curiosity. Did I call Thorgrim Thoric again? A really bad habit, especially since Thoric is present in my Kairos campaign, and it's just getting confusing. 87-89 on the melee attack and defense, though his armor isn't as much as I thought. I remember seeing Thoric over 200 armor, though that might have been due to a rune or something that he put on himself, rather than what he naturally has. I don't quite recall. Well, nonetheless, Thorgrim, you didn't really achieve anything with all of your own stats and armor, because you were unable to protect your army, and I assume, at least while you were running, you were busily writing a grudge into your book there. Alright, you know, not too shabby. I think this army is pretty decent now that I think about it, about fighting dwarven armies in particular, or at least these types of dwarven armies that Thorgrim has brought. We have the ranged units that were able to easily take care of the enemy slayers, which would obviously be quite problematic for either our infantry or for our Vargeists to slay. And then, of course, the infantry could hold the ground while our Vargeists and our... and Peter were able to tie up all of the Iron Drakes as well as the enemy Grudge Throwers. And then Peter was able to take out the Gyro Bomber as well as annoy the enemy aerial units in general. It may be a reason to actually keep him on his Hellsteed rather than putting him on a Zombie Dragon. We can't pretty much, well, I mean, we can't have every Lord on a Zombie Dragon. I'll have to think about it. I mean, the addition of the Breath ability is quite nice as well, but just for variety, maybe? Though, to be fair, we have Isabella and the various vampires on Hellsteeds anyway. I don't know. I will consider that. Anyway, we are going to... You know what, let's heal up to full. We are in enemy territory after all, and we still have to consider what we do next. Oh, defeating Thorgrim gives us another research buff? Huh. Okay, that can't have always been like that, could it? Maybe it was. Maybe it's just been a while since I've gotten the defeat trait for Thorgrim on anybody. Huh. So if everybody kills Ikit and everybody kills Thorgrim, that's 20% extra research per lord, which would be quite a bit. Certainly something to look into. More research is always great. Now, Pete, the question for you, my friend, is where are you going to go next? Barrack Var should probably fall, as it is the last bastion here. We could also ignore it and head southward toward Karak Azul, Black Crag, and Iron Rock, though then I suppose that would allow Bathilda to take Karazakarak. In fact, wait, can we auto-resolve this? And then maybe Bathilda head to Barrack Var? The reason that I perhaps... Pyrrhic Victory. One of our frickin' Crypt Horrors die. Okay, we'll have to do this manually real quick at some point. Yeah, so what I'm thinking was I did want to send Bathilda back once we give her Hive Mind to start building the... to start building vampire crits everywhere at half the cost. If we save up enough money, we could build them in several locations at once where we can afford them. At the very least, Drakenhof and Templehof, and possibly several other locations, especially if we upgrade Karakadrin and Zufbar before we get there. And things like Fyldorf, we could also even delete a few things in several other territories just to be able to get those up and running. Of course, we need to come back in order to upgrade them. But still, it would be a significant amount of savings, in theory. Though in practice, this army costs us 4.5k per turn, so the time it takes to get there would be 5k, at least 7.5k to get there, so the savings would be nullified by the fact that the army isn't going where it needs to go. You know, I'll think about it. It might not be necessary. Either way, that does allow Pete to move to Iron Rock, though that's a little bit far away. Oh, but it does have iron, which is quite good, and Black Crag has a gold mine, though Queek is nearby. The thing is, we want the iron, and we need somebody to destroy Carrick Drawn anyway, and it looks like Peter is the closest one right now. So we're going to send him in March Stance, and hopefully he can reach Iron Rock in a single round. And also, hopefully, these guys don't get too strong of an army up and running in Berek Var before we get there. And Zoltathios is liable to take Ekrond here, which looks pretty good to me. I feel like we also need to maybe send him to take out the top knots. Like, this is their only territory, though I did once again want that Elven colony, or former Elven colony. But it's not a huge deal right now. Rudy, I think we need to send you out to attack Rifarafa as well. Like so, and you should be able to take that with ease, especially if these guys don't bother defending it. We'll see what Orion does, whether he sieges Miragliano, but I doubt that he will because there's a full stack there. Also, we still have these guys here, eh? You know what? You can identify what's in Karak Azur, and Ikit is there again, with a full stack and a pretty nice stack at that. He can't take Fort Saul with it, or at least I doubt that he could. Though stopping those Doom players with zombies would be pretty much impossible. Actually would be an interesting question. We'll see if he starts marching towards Fort Saul or not. If he does, maybe we'll summon just a couple ringers here, like a couple of, like a Crypt Core unit. A single Crypt Core should be able to surround and kill a Doom Flayer. Or a Doom Wheel. He has Doom Flayers. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. Just so that we don't have to get an army over there to deal with it, ourselves. Anyway, Assassin. Let's start moving our heroes and lords around. We had 2 straight battles. Normally I like to mix up the battles and the admin, but I wanted to see how much money we'd be gaining out of all the admin and the battles. Or out of the battles for the admin, rather. Ah, failure. Come on, Assassin. You're better than this. I know that you don't have Queen Bee near you anymore in order to increase your chances, but you should still be better than this. Anyway, Trisha. You're gonna go to Bathilda. Tech Thief, you need some tech thievery, so let's move you down to Carrick Draw. Let's also take away your Unholy Lodestone while we're at it. Like so. None. There we go. And what else do we have here? Wilhelm. Ah, yes, you. You are the new disciple of Rudy, so you're gonna go up this way, and you're gonna try to join him. Also, while we're at it, we have another Master Black Arts available. In Siegfried Posner here. Now the question is, who needs another Necromancer? Pete might be good with one. I mean, he has a relatively small melee line, and a single Mortis Engine and a single Necro should probably suffice. So we probably don't need a second. Rudy has a much bigger melee line, so it's much more necessary. Actually, Bathilda may have a fairly decent melee line later on, but then again, with the black coaches and stuff as they are, it may not be necessary either. We may actually be good for Necros for now. I mean, we'll probably get a big melee line with Aldous eventually, but half his army is going to be Cav, because, you know, Blood Knights. Rod? Rod. There is you. You have 2 Mortis Engines, but 2 Corpse Cart... You know, that might not be a horrible idea, though technically we'd probably only need the one that's in the, that's in this line, though it depends on if we replace these guys or not. We will want to get another Horror, and also that reminds me. We want to get 1 more Morn Gold, 1 more Horror, and 1 more Terrorgeist. You're gonna get replaced by you, so we need to either get rid of 2 Ghouls... or maybe 1 Ghoul and 1 Skeleton Spear, something along those lines. With 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, it's probably the way to do it. I don't want to go too little on the Ghouls, but I do think that we need some kind of melee line to hold while the Ghouls obviously hit the enemy in the back and stuff. Alright, well that means you're gonna stay as you are, Tech Thief. You've got 2 turns, so let's steal some tech, though your chances here ain't great. There's nowhere else that you can reach right now, eh? Well, give it a try. Try not to die, though. Destroy. Well, it was a failure, but he didn't die, so that's somewhat okay. You, similar sort of thing. And you have your Unholy Lodestone, you have 5 turns of Steel Tech left. It's actually pretty good. Head out to here, though.
Raise it to the ground.
And also get rid of that corpse cart.
It will be as dust.
Alrighty, well, it won't be as dust if you fail, buddy. Then, let's see, Salvatore Posner, you were our explorer. I don't think we need to explore anything here further, at least for now. Oh, these guys don't like the treaties with Bordelot Errant, but that's not super surprising. I think we send them north to identify the High Elves. If the High Elves declare war on us, it won't matter because they're too far, but if they're willing to trade, well, that would be good. Really depends on how much they dislike the fact that we're friendly with Imric right now. Also, you are at 5 turns, so you're actually pretty good, and I'd rather not waste the money for now. Alright, you stay as you are, buddy. And then one last tech thief remaining, you've got 8. Okay, so you can just stay here as well. And don't waste the cash. We need it for various purposes. Now, those purposes, we have to turn to those. Can we possibly defend against this many stack at Fort Stroghoff? Maybe. I'm kind of disinclined to waste a bloodline on it, because the bloodline might die. We could do a Master Necromancer. The problem with that is the Master Necromancer can't fight, whereas the Vampire could actually add something to the defense of the place. I mean, we could always do something like, On the other hand, we do want levels on these guys, but the likelihood that you're going to be able to hold against 3 armies after this army is almost non-existent. Maybe we just go a straight-up regular Vampire Lord, because most likely you're going to die anyway. The only thing is, you have Invocation of Nehek, and it might be nice to get somebody with, like, Master of the Black Arts, like this other Strigoi, for example. You know, maybe we'll get you up and running, because our second ghoul, if we end up making one, is going to be the tough one, not the Master of the Black Arts one. So if you die, then you die. Wait, actually, aren't these guys immortal anyway? Yeah, they're basically, they're mortal anyway, so they can't die. So you know what? Yeah, you're good. You're good. You have the Bound, Master of the Black Arts, and you have the Invocation of Nehek as well. So that would be pretty good. Now, in terms of raising, we've got some good options here, some very good options, in fact. Now, I did want to get Vlad those extra Blood Knights, so there's potential for raising those. In fact, let's give you a Gravedigger to raise some units. Now, you have a Mourngul, and do we have another Crypt Horror in here? No, alas, we do not. Keep the Mourngul for Rod, who can't raise another one right now, nor a Crypt Horror. It's kind of surprising that we can't raise a Horror here, actually. Yeah. And he can't raise a Terrorgeist either, damn. Alrighty, well, regardless. Blood Knights for Vlad. Mourngul for Rod. And is there anything else that we need here? Like, need to try to hold this? Well, a couple more Graveguard wouldn't go amiss. They're expensive, but not so expensive that we shouldn't be getting them. We'll get some basic skeletons and stuff like that as well. Flyers to chase enemies, perhaps? A single Vargeist unit could be helpful in... you know what? Let's get a couple of Unholy Lodestones. Those will help hold the line. Man, if these guys attack with 3 armies, it would be a pretty epic last stand for this guy, so I'm excited at the prospect, I gotta say. Alright, let's do that. And then let's get a couple of those Graveguard with great weapons. This is gonna cost so much money. But what can you do? Do we need Cairn Race? I don't think that would actually be very helpful in this particular situation, would they? I'd get the Vargulf, but it's a little bit on the expensive side. You know what, let's get a couple units of bats. They're not as good at chasing as the Dire Doggos are, but the thing is, that they can at least get the enemy off the field. Alrighty, and then let's get, let's say, 4 Skeleton Spears to match the 4 Graveguard. And then, is this enough to hold Fort Stroghoff? Essentially, this is this army by itself, because this is garbage and wouldn't really help. I still expect them to attack it. And we still have a little bit of cash remaining, though I suppose the question is whether we need to raise anything else anywhere right now. I don't think we do. I think we're okay. And if we are okay, we're free to spend it all and then just delete it afterwards. Well, obviously transfer some of the stuff, but yeah. It's not that I'm so keen on holding Fort Stroghoff, it's just the fact that if all these armies come here, we could make an epic battle out of it. And I'm always willing to spend money on getting a good battle out of stuff. Yeah, you know what? Let's get to, let's say, 4 zombies in here. The Vargulf would be really helpful in obliterating enemy mammoths, but at 1200 I don't think that's worth our time. Or I don't think it's worth our money, rather. Honestly, there isn't much of a difference between raising zombies and raising skeletons at this point, but, you know what? Let's go 1 more skeleton spear, and then, actually, no, you know what? Let's get 2 skeleton warriors. Not that big of a difference. And we'll try to go without anything else. Honestly, a black coach would be pretty great, but, wait, actually, what's in here? We got 2 mammoths, 2 skin wolves, we got a ton of infantry that the black coach could absolutely rip apart. A Mortis engine would just deal with everything here, but we can't raise one here. It's actually not that expensive. It's actually cheaper than the Vargulf. You know what? Let's go for the black coach, and rather than the Vargulf, it's a nice middle ground. And then 1 more skeleton and 2 more skeletons. There we go. No zombies. Alrighty, that should hopefully be able to hold against 3 armies. And with that, unfortunately, I'm going to call this episode because we're out of time. Next time, we're going to end the turn immediately and hope we get attacked by a ton of armies, and we'll see whether we can hold. I also think that these guys are allied, so if Bok decides to siege Fort Stroghoff, we might get even him joining in on all of this, which would be a pretty epic fight. And even if we do lose, we can send Roderick to clean them up and kill them all after. Alrighty, so yeah, that's going to be the goal for next episode, plus possibly taking Karazakarak and whatever else we can get up to down here, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to leave a like and comment for your friendly neighborhood heretic. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.